Welcome to the Tuesday, May 19th, 2020 meeting of the Longmeadow School Committee for Governor Baker's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. General Law 30A, Section 20, the public will not be allowed to physically access the school committee meeting. School committee is using the Zoom meeting platform to conduct this meeting. LCTV is live streaming the meeting on Channel 12. A recording of the meeting will be posted to the LCTV YouTube channel as soon as possible after the meeting. At this time, we normally would go into the Pledge of Allegiance, but in these circumstances, I'm going to pause for a moment. Thank you. Ryan, we have correspondence?
We do. A letter from Mr. Stephen Dudek, LHS Girls Lacrosse Coach, and Mr. Michael Athis, LHS Baseball Coach, dated May 12, 20, regarding payment of the spring coaching staff at LHS. A letter from Megan Patrick Streck, received on May 12, 2020, regarding remote learning. Thank you note, received on May 10, 2020, from the Allen-Tuck family. And a letter received May 12, 2020, from the Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative regarding continued payment to their transportation staff.
Thanks, Ryan. We have minutes for approval. Is there a motion?
I move the school committee approve the minutes for the May 6, 2020 school committee meeting as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I call for a vote. Oh, wait a second. Gotta do this by roll call. Let me open this up because I want to see everybody. Okay. Gianna.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Jamie.
Yes.
Bronwyn.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Sulu.
Yes.
Armin, yes. Passes. At this time, I'd open up for any of the visitors to comment. Yep. Seeing none, I'll open up for school committee announcements and recognition. Anybody? Ryan.
Yeah, as a parent of a senior, I want to thank the high school administration for their constant communication with regarding senior events and all the other possibilities and the things that are going on. They're really doing a great job. So we appreciate that as parents.
Kevin Shea.
Just a reminder for folks that the LA is going to happen on Thursday night. I think that's going to be an excellent opportunity to, spread a little joy and have some fun with the musicians and vocalists over Zoom.
Anybody else? I guess what we do was correspondence marked a letter from the LPDEC in regards to which the letter's public in regards to patient and the costs. I guess just for our taxpayers at home, I just want to let you know that Longmeadow, I believe, has been the best steward of your tax during this time of COVID, of trying to weigh budgetary constraint, meeting the needs of the district as best as we can. It's disappointed when the chair of the collaborative sent a letter, which I thought was, quite frankly, insulting. The specific language in that letter far outweigh the minor cost saving we might realize through furloughs when we're talking about 6 digits. Again, I also was I was insulted by we hope you can appreciate the complexity of our decision. Yes, we appreciate the complexity of that decision because we make those every day here on the school committee. We had to weigh furloughing our own employees. We have to weigh the $350,000 in the budget shortfall we're talking about right now. We have to weigh the needs of our children as we try and continue to meet the standards that Longmeadow has come to expect. So yeah, complex decision is what we're doing, and I find this letter highly insulting from the collaborative, and that's my thoughts. So thanks. Any further comments?
Armin, I completely agree and felt the exact same way from my viewpoint.
Thanks, Jamie. All right, seeing we have no business with guests, I'll go into administrative reports. Dr. O'Shea?
Sure, you'll hear from me a little later on in the meeting, so I won't take too much of your time, but I will mention that one of the pressing matters on our mind right now is graduation exercises for the class of 2020. And in a few minutes or so, Principal Landers, Assistant Principal Dunkerley will be attending virtually a Board of Health meeting to discuss options. I can just say that we are being as ambitious as possible, but also respecting the parameters that the Board of Health may need to have us work within. And we hope to have some concrete plans out to the public very soon and to the students. So it has been a day and night exercise for the high school administration, and appreciate the involvement of Beverly Hirschhorn, a health agent, Chief John Dearborn, and the that we have with the Board of Health tonight. So we'll keep you posted on that. I'll save some of my other comments for later on in the agenda when continuity of learning and recovery and return to school come up. So that's all I have for now.
Any comments for Dr. O'Shea? Questions? Ryan, echoing your comments earlier about being the parent of a senior, I'm not, but having gone through it, I can't imagine what this feels, senior parents and the seniors, to not be recognized in a way that's truly special to them. I will say though that Dr. O'Shea and I have been on the phone at least a half hour a day for the last 2 weeks. I'm going to say at least a half hour. So if I'm on with him, I know he's doing so much more, but you're right. The administration has been doing everything within their power to try and create options to celebrate of 2020. And not only at the high school level, but Neil and Nicole at the middle school level as well, and Beth, Amy, and Donna at the 5th grade level, and the rising 5th graders. So I can tell you, it will not be for trying that we celebrate the successes of our children across the district. So I echo those sentiments. Ryan?
And also one more thing, unofficially, groups of parents that have done great things for the seniors, unofficial weekends that officially happened in the high school parking lot where they got photos and in their caps and gowns and cool stuff. So the groups of parents are going out of their way to help the kids as well. It's just a crazy situation. So kudos to everybody who's doing what they can.
Thanks. Okay. Superintendent report. I don't have your report in here, but I have your report. So you want to give your report? Sue, you're on mute.
My dog was barking. Sorry.
Oh.
So I don't know. I hope everybody has it. I thought I've uploaded it to the drive. I just wanted to chime in a little bit to one more time, thank all of our educators and admins who are doing all the things. I have a list of things that we've accomplished. It's just a short list of some of the things that we've done. I keep thinking back to that first day of us hearing that we weren't coming back, and how are we going to address students, and everybody jumping right into it. And kind of where we are now after we're been in it for a while is to think about ways to keep students engaged between now and the end of the school year, which is coming up fast, but trying to plan some more meaningful celebrations, some maybe whole school events, I think center school has a PE challenge, some of those kind of unique ways to keep kids engaged in the curriculum. And then we're looking ahead, after we get graduation plan and things like that, we really are thinking about what's coming up the pike, where will we be, thinking about what summer enrichment might look like if we can have it, special education, we're planning for remote and in person as well. We'll see what happens between now and then. Planning for our fall return. We learned a lot from our experiences at the start of this to move towards a more similar platform for everybody, and So we're looking at those kinds of things. We're looking at an RTI universal screener to start at the end of this school year so students can take it and get some support over the summer. So I just wanted to fill you in on kind of some of the things that we were doing and make it quick because I know we have a long meeting.
Thanks. So are there any questions for Sue?
So, Armin, is it all right if I jump in?
Yeah, Kevin, go.
So I'm just curious. I did have one question about sort of thinking about the fall, and I'm happy to hold that until we get to that point in the agenda because it is related to things that were on Stu's report.
All right.
So, I mean, I guess the thing I'm curious about, Sue, is thinking about, we've got a month left instruction. I'm curious if we've been saying to the teachers, like, this is really valuable time to try out things in anticipation of having to do things differently next year. And so, for example, if there are teachers who still have gotten comfortable using Zoom or wanted to try the breakout room feature to do small groups, like, is there a way that we could be encouraging people to try stuff now that will really help them think about what questions they have so that they could do better next year, or just get more comfortable with things that they might have to do? It just seems like it's a big opportunity now that I would hate for us to miss, because if we start trying stuff in the summer and we have no students, those experiments aren't as valuable as experimenting now.
Yeah, great question. I think we've been talking about an admin team, and I know Marty probably wants to jump in here because he has been talking about this a lot too, but we've really been encouraging our educators from central office to give it a try. It's not as scary as they think. We've been asking our administrators to follow up with teachers who really haven't been engaging in asynchronous or synchronous learning. I've asked them to do some model lessons with those teachers who are still worried about it, to, just kind of like push them off the ledge a little bit. So we've definitely been thinking about it, but also thinking about planning some PD for the start of next year if we are thinking we're going to have remote sessions where we really can get down to some nitty-gritty teaching on those kinds of platforms. Marty, I don't know, you want to add anything?
No,
Sorry. Am I allowed to ask that?
well said. I mean, I think we're, I know I had a very similar conversation with us today, and we've been explicit in asking folks to take a chance and to learn the tools. We've seen a lot of the tracking that we do on the number of Zoom meetings overall. It's gradually increased, and so we want to see that continue to increase, and we want to support teachers who want to take, and I think you're right, Kevin. I think that's a really good message to get out, and maybe we can be even more purposeful with that to say, hey, now's the time, because the longer this goes on, it does look like to be equipped with these skills, and use them more frequently next year. So, well said.
Okay, hold on a sec. Kevin, do you have a follow-up or are you done? Okay, Bronwyn next, Ryan after.
I was just curious, under where we are now, considering revised curriculum for 2021, is that like a specific area or just K-12?
Yeah, those are some of the things that we talked about prior to all of this. Social studies at 6th and 7th, middle school math, which I think they're going to table for a little while, elementary social studies, high school has asked for some updated text. Those kinds of things that we've been off and on are still kind of on their way. Okay. Even though I haven't mentioned them for a while.
So I'm wondering if you're checking out any of the many companies that might be able to work with the teachers and administrators on remote learning and the different skills that teachers need to do this successfully.
I have a big file of all the emails and promotions that we've been getting from those. Yeah, if you have any experience with someone you love, I'd be happy to hear that from you, Ryan.
Yeah, I don't want to get testing, but yeah, we are using one at my school that the teachers have found very helpful so far.
Oh, great. Maybe you could email me.
But I'll so I can talk to you about that if you want.
Perfect.
Yeah, there's been no shortage of email advertisements on our school committee account in the last 2 months. Yeah. I've never seen it like this before.
Yeah.
Everything is free right now, and then come fall, they're going to hit us up for the real price,
This group's not free, but they are good.
That's okay. Yeah.
I think, and to underscore that just a little bit more, I think, we will need to bring some more and greater consistency to the platforms that we use. And not sure what that would look like right now, but Google Classroom has been a tool for us. And so I think we know that we're going to have to create that a more consistent experience for students and teachers by a common platform. So we'll definitely keep you posted on that.
Bronwyn, and wait, I'm going to go with Susie first because you haven't asked the question yet, and then Bronwyn.
Yeah, I would just recommend too, this is a different sort of, the teaching is one thing and is the other. And, we have to think about different ways and unique ways of assessing that really brings students into the mix much more than they probably have been. And so a lot about defenses of learning and opportunities for students to really be engaged in the assessment themselves. Happy to share some resources around that as well. And again, I won't use the school committee meeting to promote an organization, but I'll forward you some stuff that really is powerful. That has also been promoted by the New England Association of Schools and Colleges.
Okay, great. I was talking to somebody yesterday, so maybe it's the same person, but super impressed with their conversation.
Bronwyn?
Thanks. Kevin might have mentioned this before. I don't know if it's he was speaking about, but the plan for the return in the fall. I know anything from the state, but I was just curious if we are instead of waiting until the last minute, are we getting ready for 3 different types of opening? Or are we just going to wait until the state announces what they think we should do? I fear if we wait too long, we'll be kind of run. It won't be as great as it could be.
I think we started our planning document about 4 or 5 weeks ago. So we've really been thinking about the 3 different scenarios for opening and for safety and all of that stuff.
So there's a specific plan for each of the 3.
And that I'd say we have a draft of things that we need to put in a plan for the 3. We don't have a plan for the 3 yet, though.
So I was going to mention some of this down below in the agenda, but one of the things that I think would be helpful to us, and I was talking to Kathy Rosato about this briefly today, is pulling together a task force of some sort to focus on the reopening plans. And it's that's a seed that Sue had planted in my head a while back. So I think that would be a good idea. And what I'm imagining is that it's sort of a task force of stakeholders, parents, students, school committee, LEA, and other groups. So I think that will kind of help us get our head around what needs to happen. But as Sue said, that there's sort of the 3 scenarios: exclusively remote, hybrid, or exclusively in the building. It seems to me that we're headed towards more of a hybrid arrangement, but there has been no announcements from DESE on this. The other thing that's happening, I would want to assure the school committee and the general public, is that we have an explicit, written list of supplies, equipment, and materials that we think we are going to need to reopen. And it's everything from sanitizing equipment to signage to, we've talked about additional desks. So Tom Mazza is kind of managing that list for us. And we have been in touch with the fire chief because we think there's some value in ordering the supply a centralized way. And it could possibly be that the fire chief with his pull will have some buying power in some areas that will help us out. So it's quite a lengthy list, and some of it's speculation at this point, but we want to be in a go position regardless of what the ultimately happens to be. But I'm not anticipating that we're going to hear much from the state time. I think it's going to be the governor said shortly. I'm not convinced that that's the case. I think we're going to be waiting weeks for any concrete plan from the Department of Education.
Can I ask a follow-up, Armin?
course.
Marty, do you have a timing that task force together?
So I was going to announce, I'm doing a sort of a broadcast on Friday to the whole community, and I was going to announce it then and then start to pull that group together next week.
Okay.
You know, I'd ask, I'd probably be in touch with Chairman Ray to identify a committee member or others to be involved with that. So.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I'd say within a couple of weeks, I'd like to identify the stakeholders involved.
Okay. Any more questions for Sue on the curriculum, on anything? Okay, so if you beg my indulgence, I forgot Neil and Nicole are here specifically on the STEAM from the curriculum sub, so I'd like to make them the next item on the agenda. If anybody objects? Okay. Marty, you guys want to take off to go to the committee curriculum sub on the recommendation on STEAM?
Sure. I'll pull up the file and Neil and Nicole and Sue, you can prompt me to click through it. I want to just briefly thank Sue and Neil and Nicole for being very thoughtful about how we can introduce a STEAM experience to our sixth graders. So I'll grab the file. Diane, if you can point me towards it.
It's agenda 8, I think.
9.
Agenda 9, sorry.
9. Why am I not seeing it?
Right there.
You want me to try it? There we go.
All right.
No, it's
All right. I'll advance it as you guys tell me to.
It's probably a PDF, I bet.
Yeah. All set.
Okay.
Can you see it, Sue?
Yeah. Now
Okay.
I can.
Okay.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, first, thank you guys for having Neil and I here tonight to kind of share our thoughts on the program we're hosting next year. So we'll go through and kind of go through the slides and then share with you what the differences will look like for the upcoming school year. And then at the end, kind of talk about a look ahead and some considerations we still have out there. So, okay, you can go to the second slide. Yep, thanks.
Yeah, so as Nicole recognized, we've been working diligently on trying to figure out what STEAM would look like in or at the middle school level. In both schools, we are proposing, or we'll be subscribing to the description that's in front of you. And really at the heart of what we're proposing is, in-based learning, interdisciplinary experiences, that really empowers the students. We just feel like it's an awesome opportunity to build it ground up, starting with sixth grade, and hopefully expanding that to grades 7 and 8, which we'll be talking about later.
So this next slide just sort of talks about the program themes in sixth grade, how they'll be developed in conjunction with the core curriculum standards. Below that, just show some bulleted points of what we'll be focused on. So I'll give you guys a second to take a look at that.
Yeah, we're trying to break the experience down into, I guess, buckets, if you will. First of all, looking at the lessons, we want the lessons to be really focused on the engineering design process, and we want students to be provided with explicit instruction that really allows them to explore and to engage in those critical 21st century skills such as communication, collaboration, creativity, so forth. And then that other piece is our hope, our goals that students will be able to engage in those design process skills. They'll be able to demonstrate collaboration. They'll have ample opportunities to do that through small group projects, long term. We also, aspire to provide them with opportunities to be to the team and to really recognize what their role is as a contributing member of that team. And then lastly, working on that idea of being able to have the confidence to present their findings to the audience in various forms.
And then the next slide is sort of just a visual of what we're seeing happen with STEAM. So the one that stands out the most is just the engineering design process. And we kind of chose this visual because it's more kid-friendly and in kid-friendly language, the idea of what we're looking for at the 6th grade level, which focuses a lot on the design process. So you'll see that whole ask question, plan, create, and improve. So that would be really what we'd be taking a look at in the 6th grade as we connect it with the other core areas, which you'll see in a later slide as well.
This is more just kind of background knowledge, kind of framing the whole experience by using the standards, in particular the Massachusetts Engineering, Tech, and App of Science standards.
And then what you'll see here is just a possible STEAM cross-curriculum map. So what we did is we took some things that are happening in each trimester in science, math, social studies, and ELA, and tried to some potential projects based on what the other classes are working on in each trimester. So that just sort of shows you the idea of 5 in the first trimester, there's 4 in the second, and there's 3 in the third. There's no science to that number. They could be less. They could be more. We did talk about maybe having it more, student-driven, where they could help with that, and also student choice, like maybe have them choose 3 out of the 5, depending on a trimester. So there's some things that we're still talking through and thinking about, but this is just sort of a map, a possible map of what things could look like based on what's already happening in each core class during each trimester.
And one of the questions that we had been wrestling with, excuse me, I'm in my, one of the things we were wrestling with was how to integrate or how to address all of the standards. And I believe the next 2 slides just again highlight what we're really building the program around. And if you were to read each one of those, what you would see are great examples of process skills, skills for really export the engineering skills of the 21st century.
So maybe, and I'll stop there at the next couple of slides, Neil, and about how the experience will be delivered at each middle school. But before we get into that, maybe stop to see if there are any questions at this point. If not, that's okay. All right.
Hold on. I got hands. We're gonna go with Gianna, then Ryan.
Sorry, guys. Thank you very much for pulling this together and for emphasizing STEAM. As a parent of a kid who absolutely loves STEAM, I appreciate. My question for you is, in speaking of that child, I've been working with him and some of his peers to do a documentary on the whole 3D printing collaborative project that encompasses pretty much everything that you're talking about. And the kind of the focus on that is around the vision of the graduate components. So I'm wondering if there's a way to just kind of make that connection even more prominent with what you've got going on here, because you're using all the same skill terms and words and components, but I would love to see it just even fleshed out a little bit more in terms of, now you've got middle schoolers that are coming up and they're going to be entering the high school and working on those vision of the graduate skills.
Sorry, I'm just writing down what you're saying, Gianna.
Gianna, I think that's a really a great idea, and I you know, a lot of this, our interest in STEAM really flows from that vision of the graduate experience, and kind of recognizing that we're trying to give kids opportunities to develop the skills where they can attain that vision. So I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense, is that we ought to be prepared to show the sort of explicit connection between this and our interest in delivering on that vision of the graduate promise.
Brian?
Yeah, thank you. This is great. I love the STEAM stuff. I'm wondering if, since this is a new program, if part of the plan is to the teachers at the two different schools to collaborate and plan together to make sure it's they're doing the same stuff, because I think it's a good opportunity to get them between the two schools. So I'm just wondering if that's being addressed somewhere.
Yeah, we'll have that. Go ahead, Sue.
I think there might be a slide later on that, Ryan, but I think Nicole and was talking about a half-day release time for them to collaborate. We are thinking about maybe a small stipend for somebody who can be the point person at Williams. I think after presentation of the programs go at each school, you'll figure out why it's a little bit of a challenge that we're trying to work through that collaboration. So I might get some answers that way.
Ryan?
One thing to keep in mind, we're becoming much better at this not same room version of collaboration. So remotely they can work that out in 6-minute drive. I just think it's important.
Great point.
Yeah.
All right, Neil and Nicole, you want to continue?
Yeah, most certainly.
Right here, yeah.
So at Williams next year, what we propose to do is to use the extension block time, which is a period in time that happens at the same time every day. And right now, what it is used for is for remediation specific to English language arts and mathematics. So we have a 6-day rotating schedule. We are proposing that 2 of those days would be STEAM days, where we drop everything and do STEAM. Based on, and just to point out, in the earlier slides, Dr. O'Shea, where it talked about the different themes, and this kind of gets to maybe what Ryan was getting at about consistent district is, yeah, right there. Sorry, back. Sorry. Down. Maybe one more slide.
This one.
I apologize for that. Yeah, right there. So just to use this as an example, and nothing is set in stone, but I think what this does is it really kind of paints a picture of essentially what we're proposing, where this model is really a model that's going to be reflected at Glenbrook. What we would do at Williams is, look to adopt. I'm sorry.
Go back to it.
Yeah, I was just using that as, so what we would ultimately look to do is adopt maybe in the first trimester 1, 2, or 3 of those units, if we're calling those units, or modules, whatever we're referring to them as, recognizing that we're only able to delve deeply into the STEAM experience twice every rotation. So we recognize it wouldn't be feasible for us to go to commit to covering all of the STEAM themes or modules over the course of a trimester. Rather, we would maybe get to a couple. Still focusing though, and I think this is very important, on the engineering process and that inquiry-based learning, that 3 skills we're still embedding those. It would just be on a reduced sorry, Marty, you can go back to that slide. So I think what else was on slide, we're talking about the fact that one of the challenges we have is dealing with a large current sixth grade cohort. They are moving up, and that's requiring us to think extremely creatively about how we can address that bubble. In order to do that, the proposal is to utilize the resource and the skills of one of the current sixth grade teachers in seventh grade. So by doing that, we are then reducing the sixth grade team to 4 members, the ones who would be doing the STEAM. That's a rough class size of 24, 25 during those STEAM blocks. Yeah, would you add anything, Sue, Nicole, Marty?
It kind of comes out together after you hear the whole presentation, but the delivery at Glenbrook and the delivery at Williams are a little bit different. And the delivery at Glenbrook is 4 out of 6 days, and Williams is 2 out of 6 days, because we need the math teacher at 6 to move to 7. So kind of keeping those differences in mind as we move through might help to understand the dynamics of the planning and things like that.
So at Glenbrook, if we were adding STEAM, our teachers downstairs would departmentalize. So we would have 5 teachers down there, and each of them one would teach ELA, math, science, social studies, and then have a STEAM teacher. So they would not be teaching 2 classes anymore. They would be totally departmental 6th grade. STEAM would replace that extension block that Neil was talking about, where at Williams, the teachers would be teaching during that block. STEAM would get rid of the extension blocks because we would need that now, because it's kind of confusing. But if you went through Glenbrook, you would know, like, they teach 4 core classes that are graded, and then every teacher does an extension block. So because we're adding another class, we lose the extension and it has 5 classes that they teach that are graded. So the one thing that we're trying to do to kind of be closer to what Williams is doing is, and also to help kids, because losing the extension block loses an intervention block for us, which is tough. So we're going to provide 2 opportunities for support blocks. So really we'll be doing STEAM 4 days out of the 6 days, and those other 2 days will be blocks where kids can get pulled for interventions if needed. And then the kids that are still in the class during that time will be kind of like when they were in extension. They'll just do, go deeper into their project, new instruction on those days. So kids who have to go to interventions would not miss any new instruction. And then in addition to that, because we're losing the extension blocks, students who traditionally get could continue to get those during drop blocks, which are kind of like study blocks, explorers, which are study blocks, and then other potential CIA blocks if need be. And then the lab teachers, which are basically not science lab. We have math lab and lit lab, which is ELA and math intervention, will now be pushed into the classroom, which is what we've wanted to do anyway. So we'll have more of that happening at Glenbrook as well in 6th grade.
Awesome. Is there any questions for Nicole or Neil? Ryan, then Bronwyn.
I'm just making sure I'm hearing this right. So Glenbrook will be doing STEAM 4 out of the 6 blocks, and Williams 2 out of the 6?
Got it right.
So they can't align between the 2 schools because...
Right, they can share the units, and Williams can choose 2 out of the 4 units, 3 out of the 4 units, however it might work out. Or, students might have that choice. The big difference is there's a dedicated STEAM teacher at Glenbrook. So the kids will get an ELA, math, science, social studies, and STEAM class almost every day. which is the big difference from Williams. And the STEAM class is taught by the STEAM teacher.
Right, I get it. It's staffing. Staffing is the.
Staffing is the challenge, right?
I'm just making sure I'm hearing it all correctly.
Yeah.
Bronwyn?
Say the,
Marty has an ad.
no, go ahead. I'll wait.
Okay,
No, go
Bronwyn?
ahead. It might be,
It might be the answer she's looking for, Marty.
Well, I'd say, it's an anomaly brought on by the need for, to borrow from the 6th grade team to cover the 7th grade bubble. And, key here is that both schools are pointed in the same direction, that we see this as a multi-initiative, that next year this is sort of the best delivery model that we can come up with, and it will team experience at both schools, understanding that it's going to be delivered differently at Williams, but both schools are at different places with enrollment, and there's also some certification issues that feed into this as well.
Bronwyn?
I think this program is amazing. I'm super excited for the students to be able to, I think they'll be super excited as well. Seems really well planned out and thought out. And it's great that we're adding it in 6. I am very concerned that the students at Williams will be getting half as much STEAM time as the students at Glenbrook. That's pretty significant, I think. So basically the kids at Glenbrook are getting double the students at Williams. I understand the issues surrounding staffing, and I'm sure we've already looked at a lot of ways to resolve it, but I'm just wondering, I think the students will probably be not psyched about if they're at Williams. I think the parents won't be feeling like it's as fair, because everything else seems like it lines up at our middle schools. And the double, pretty significant to me, that's all.
Jamie?
Yeah, I just have a 2-pronged question. I'm not sure who would know the answer to it, but first one, what are the classes at Glenbrook? It sounded like Dr. Gaia was saying that they're going to be pretty high at Williams, 24-ish in 1, and can we utilize any of the resources from Glenbrook for Williams? And then the second, what would we need to do this right? Just to answer the second, I know budget constraints, but I don't kind of like the difference either, and I just was wondering what it really looked like to be similar.
Marty?
I'll take the second question because it's easier. It dedicated what Neil and Nicole always hoped for, frankly, was a dedicated STEAM teacher at each school, and that would create a perfectly even experience at each of the schools. And I think that's something that we would want to keep on as a consideration in future years, because I think both Neil and Nicole share an interest in rolling this into 7th and 8th grade in future years. And the other thing I'd say is that, and Neil and Nicole can speak to this a little better, this is not to say that there are no STEAM experiences at all at either middle school right now. I think they could probably each point to examples of ways that the teachers are doing some interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary work right now, but this is just a little bit more focused, a little bit more purposeful.
Yeah, I would say that's a good call. I think a lot of teachers are working at it. I know, some of you guys know that we've had a makerspace for a few years now, and we have maker challenges after school, and we have such a good participation onto project-based learning like that, which is kind of what started the whole talk about it as well. But I do think a lot of these things are happening. I do feel that the introduction of STEAM in 6th grade may inspire more of this happening fluidly through the buildings, both buildings. So I do think, and as far as the enrollment goes in sixth grade, I think we have about 22 normally. I think that's still the number for next year in sixth grade, 21 or 22. Is that your question, Jamie? Sorry.
Yeah, any, since obviously we're 4 verse 2, could we make it 3 verse 3 somehow with the resources that we had?
Got it.
Yeah, I guess the thing. Go ahead, Jamie.
Go ahead, Bronwyn.
No, I guess the thing I focus on here, what both schools are getting, as opposed to not one school getting more than the other. I think the approach that I'm hearing is more adding to the curriculum that as it's already established, as opposed to, and the circumstances are dictating as an entry to this, going to get more than another for the entry program. And then and I'm sorry, Neil and Nicole, I think I cut you off of your last summary page too, which probably wraps it up what your future plans are. But I'm sure that this isn't like what you guys are hoping for in the future, and that it evolves into something else. And I think taking out of context for people watching or people at home, we're looking at having to cut $350,000 from our budget next year. We still haven't funded a third grade position over at center school for next year. Pretty large, some pretty large, numbers there. So I guess, in given looking at what we were just talking about today, a $6 billion deficit in Massachusetts, I don't see that there's any more help coming from the state. In fact, we probably won't even see any of that SOA. I guess I applaud what you guys are trying to do within the confines of the budget that's happening. So, but I understand the decisions that you had to make, and I would support that if there's nothing else we can be done. So I applaud you guys for Brian.
Yeah, I was going to say that I don't necessarily think that one is right and one is wrong. They're just different. And I was just trying to get an understanding of what is happening at Williams. It's different because the staffing is different. And as the principal of a small school, I understand that pain. That's why I just wanted clarity on how they were going to be able to collaborate at all if they're not going to be doing the same stuff. I'm still interested in the programs as they grow, getting that common time together, one school to the other, so that they can all, that's better. But just because the Williams one has fewer opportunities doesn't necessarily make it wrong. It just makes it different.
Marty?
Well, I think I'm going to feed to, I think he's going to make the point that I was going to steal a point that he made during the curriculum sub. So I'm going to stop and give way.
Dr. Shea.
Thank you, Marty. In the curriculum subcommittee meeting, I mean, to me, we're going to be able to run 2 experiments. Running 2 experiments is better than running 1 experiment. And we're going to be able to learn from both of them. And then we're going to figure out, is there a way that we can do something with staffing? But I think running 2 experiments is a really cool way to try this out and to see what we can learn from.
Was that the point he was going to steal, or you were going to steal, Marty?
Yes. I was going to give him credit, though. I was going to cite his contributions there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll echo those sentiments. Oh, hello. I'll echo those sentiments as well. I think what's challenging in all of this, but also good in all of this, is that each school has its own unique circumstances and context that they're working within. And as you're building, towards the vision of the graduate, which is, this will, eventually lead to in Longmeadow, we need to start first. Where do we start from? And I think this is a bold move to start, especially when you consider that it's a bold move to start school-wide. And the fact that these themes are directly connected to the traditional subjects, integrating the subjects in a way that our students really need to understand and be skillful with as they're going out into the world. We know that subjects don't live in silos. We know that skills don't live in silos. They have to be applied across all domains and all disciplines and all experiences that students will engage with. this is the first step. I know that their, vision for the future is adding staff, dedicated, focus and collaboration on all of that with all involved. But this is the starting point based on the context and circumstances that we find ourselves in, both financial, both resource-wise as far as human resources, and then getting this up and off the ground. But everyone has mentioned concerns that we mentioned as well at the subcommittee conversation, but we didn't want to let those concerns stop the momentum of the work in the program that will start, and it will not land next year the way they envision it to ultimately land, if that makes any sense. They see an evolution in this, Neil and Nicole, for sure. I hope I was speaking for you, Neil and Nicole, for a visionary project that you're embarking on.
Nicole?
Yeah, I was just I would just say that we totally, through this whole process, Neil and I have always talked about that concern about not having the equity of time. Building's the first year, but to echo what you said, we want to get it started, and we totally understand that. So in our next slide in the consideration, it kind of speaks to how we want to make sure that they're always collaborating to work together, because we really know the kids at Glenbrook will have 4 days, true days to it. It doesn't mean that we're going to just jump on the train and go fast. I think is that we're going to constantly be collaborating and seeing what we can do to benefit both buildings, even though our students at Glenbrook will have more exposure in this first year, just as we start off. And I think to Ryan's point too, the whole we're all living it right now, but the remote collaboration is clearly to happen more often, and as well as face to face. But it's definitely something that is going to benefit the teachers, I think, when they're all working together on this.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Nicole. I also, Kevin, echoing the, stealing from your double experiment, analogy. I think we've seen positive impacts to the system. Started at one school and then made its way across all the schools. And I think the one that hits me right away would be the LINK program, right, Marty? It started heavier in one school, and then we moved it into, or we're trying to move it into other schools as a successful, adaptation of what can work. And I think we've done other programs that way too, where it kind of just starts and then we on it at the other schools. And the collaboration's been fantastic. So I would only imagine even more evident now. Susie?
Yeah, I just think that, adding to what everybody says, it just came to my mind, we have all these great resources that can connect us now and students. So how do we use the connection between students who are engaged in these experiences to, even bridge the gap if there is one, or if there's not, how do we use it just to simply integrate the experiences from Williams to Glenbrook? We have Zoom, we'll have a platform, that can be student-directed, student-centered way of, making it work, even with 2 days at Williams. Just a thought. And I would because it's so exciting.
Go ahead, Neil.
I think, Susie, I would just piggyback on your closing remark there. It's just a really exciting opportunity. Mm-hmm. As Nicole already recognized, we can't debate the perceived inequity in time. The thing I would bring it back to is if we are, and I feel really optimistic and positive about this, if we are really engaged in cross-district growth and development around this topic, I think the rest will come in time. The rest, really, I'm getting to us getting to a place where we're sharing a common, scope and sequence. So I feel like it's a great entry point into STEAM. It should be interdisciplinary. It should be an opportunity to really kind of roll up their sleeves and get messy and explore and engage in that engineering process. So that's where I think there's, you know, sky's the limit, and we have a commitment to among the teachers and admin to really grow the program, develop it. Just one last thing to kind of circle back to, because I feel like I didn't answer Jamie's question, and I don't think I said it very well. Just to clarify on the class size piece, the reason I referenced it was going in sixth grade by pulling one of the 5 sixth grade teachers. We only have 4 teachers to then place roughly, you know, we're trending right now 95, 100 kids at Williams next year. So that's where I got the number 24, 25 per STEAM sense. I just want to clarify that. In other academic areas, we're much lower. It would just be due to that, the impact of having to pull a sixth grade teacher to address, ironically, coincidentally, the large class size in 7th grade, if that makes sense.
Can I say that another way, and tell me if I'm saying this right, Neil, that in the non-STEAM blocks, your 95 or 100 students will be stretched out over 5 teachers, right?
Exactly.
And yep. And so do that to be well below 24, 25 that they might experience in a STEAM class would be closer to 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying that right.
Yep, exactly. Sorry.
All right. Is there any further questions, Bronwyn?
I'm super excited about this. It's just that the excitement is a little bit tempered by the fact that it's double. I mean, it's going to be every, like, Williams kids are getting it 10 times, Glenbrook kids are going to get it 20. So it's a pretty big advantage, especially when we're talking about possibly building a program into 7th and 8th grade. So then possibly next year, if we're looking to do that, it's going to be 2 completely different programs again. So, because the 7th graders in 2 years only have had half as much as the ones at Glenbrook. So it just seems for several years that will be an issue. So I'm sure you guys have looked at every possible option. I'm just disappointed for the students at Williams that they won't have an opportunity to have more STEAM. And I think I'll struggle to explain that to a student or a parent if they ask about it. And I know it's a unique situation with the 7th grade class being so large, but that doesn't change the fact that, you know, it's double at one school. So like I said, very excited, but just a little bit tempered by the fact that the some students won't be getting the same opportunities as others.
Yeah, I mean, I was just saying, I mean, yes, we totally understand that part. I think our goal, especially in this first year, is nonstop collaboration. So we're not, like I said, move quickly ahead and having students have choice in their projects. And if they go back to, we don't have to go back to the slide, but the slide that kind of shares what the standards are. And if the kids are showing mastery in both buildings of the standards, then I think they'll totally be prepared for whatever 7th grade brings. It just might mean that Glenbrook just has more time to get deeper into some of the projects and more investigation and more. And that's how we're seeing it, is the hope that the standards are going to be covered in both buildings. It's just, we'll have more opportunity at Glenbrook to go deeper into some of the projects. Am I saying that right now? I mean, the idea is that, like,
yeah, well said. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know they won't have as much exposure as Glenbrook students this first year. But the idea is, as far as preparation, the expectation is still that they'll be able to master the standards that we're both teaching in both schools.
Yeah, I wonder in the old
half day, full day kindergarten, right? Like as a full day kindergarten parent, I always expected that full day meant like they were getting twice as much, twice as much instruction during the day, but they were getting deeper instruction as opposed to going ahead of the children that were in a half day. And I'm wondering, is that kind of like what you were just saying, Nicole? It's not necessarily going ahead in instruction; it's getting deeper, like personal pursuit of the instruction.
Yes, exactly. I think it's also too that we have control over that as well, and we are dedicated to make sure that kids in both buildings are getting an experience that is beneficial for them, even though we will have double the amount of time. It's just more of deeper into the project. We have no intention of going super fast at all in this. We want to do whatever we can to get this program started in the building so that we can build on it and grow on it. So we know this first year doesn't look perfect, but with what we were dealing with, I feel like we are at the best possible proposal that we could be at this time.
Okay. Marty, you want to say something?
I think Bronwyn brings up a good point with endlessly. I'd say that, we have to look at the richness of the experience. The Williams delivery model is sort of a shared delivery model where each of the core classroom teachers will take on the responsibility for working as a team. Glenbrook, it's a dedicated teacher. And to go back to what Kevin said, I think we've got a great opportunity to see which approach makes sense for our kids. And at the end of the day, again, this is year one, and I would hate for perfect to be the enemy of good here. And if we try to create we can't create a perfectly equitable experience. If we did do that, the balloon would get pushed out in some other place that would negatively affect kids. So we think that this is the optimal arrangement, and we've got a chance to see how it works out at both schools.
Sorry, Sue.
Jumping up and down. I think it's fair to say that the students at Williams will have STEAM 2 out of the 6 opportunities, but they'll still have extension, the other 4, right, Dr. Guile? And so they still may have the opportunity to carry their STEAM projects into extension blocks on a different day. It just won't be listed STEAM teaching potentially. And I think Glenbrook's might look like that as well. They might get some explicit teaching and then have a day or two of, here you go, you're on your own, give it your best try, come up with some theories. And so it may look more alike than we think morph into, but I just wanted to let everybody know that, the kids on the other 4 days of Williams may actually have some opportunity to dig into their projects.
Jamie, did you have something?
Yeah, I just had a quick clarifying question for Nicole. So the Glenbrook STEAM teacher, is that just 100% dedicated STEAM all days of the week, or is that teacher certified in other disciplines?
Yeah, so it's weird with as far as certification go, certification as an elementary certification is what 6th grade can have to teach because they fall under the elementary license. Okay. So they can basically teach any subject. That said, the person that we have that would be teaching that is certified in science as well. He taught science at the high school. So I think for us, yes, like we were saying before, like Glenbrook would departmentalize. So each teacher would teach one subject now. So that teacher would become just the STEAM teacher. So right now that teacher is teaching science and social studies, and other teachers are teaching 2 of something. Now they'll only teach 1 subject each at Glenbrook. That they'll look like the rest of the middle school. It's like the middle school model. So they'll look like more middle school than and less of elementary.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And jumping on what Kevin said a while ago, and in light of what Sue was just saying, how things might go this way or things might go that way, can we make sure that the people involved with this are, for the sake of science, keeping what they're doing and when? So if we're going to find out which of these models ends up working best, that we actually have data to go from. So they can share with one another. I tried this or I tried that, rather than the anecdotal. If they are tracking what's going on and when, that would probably be very helpful in the to figure out what we should be doing going forward with this.
Yeah, I definitely agree, Nicole and Neil, on that one. Is there a motion on this from curriculum sub?
I'll do it.
All right,
I move on the recommendation of the curriculum subcommittee that the school committee adopt the incorporation of a STEAM curriculum in grade 6 for the Longmeadow Public Schools.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any further discussion? All right, call for a vote. Gianna?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Armin, yes. Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Guys.
And I'm sure the committee will love an update sometime before December.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we're going to move back up to the top. School committee chair report. I do not have a report except to say, again, kudos to admin and staff for the way they handle stuff over the last couple of weeks. I know, Ryan, you talked about the seniors picking up their stuff and the pictures and the caps and gowns. I thought that was a great job. I know from an elementary perspective, I walked into my child's locker, everything was in a bag, everything was put together by the teacher, and I walked out realizing it was the last time I'd be going to that school as a dad in the last 16 years, so it was a little emotional, but the teachers were great, and the staff was phenomenal, so that's what I have there. Armin, do you have a report?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that synchronous learning continues to be very solid, and especially since many students are taking AP exams this week and last week, a lot of the teachers are having frequent check-ins before and after AP exams, just to make sure that students are aware of like how to submit exams and the timing restraints and that sort of thing. So they've been very helpful in that process.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll echo that. My freshman daughter took the AP music theory exam today, and we probably had no less than 30 emails from Donna Lyons over the last, just telling us what the environment should be like, what to test, what to prepare for, and it went off without a hitch today, to the best of my knowledge. So yeah, I agree with you, Armin. Anything else, Armin?
No, that's all for me.
All right, thanks a lot. Is there any collaborative energy sustainability open space reports?
The LPDE last week, they held the first round of interviews for the new executive director. So there were 6 people interviewed, and that committee selected 3 finalists. And tomorrow, the collaborative board will be interviewing those 3 finalists. It's available on Zoom if you're interested.
Are the finalists public, or are they?
Double check that.
Okay.
You guys can. I'll come back.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, Brian. Just trying to see what if there's a diverse slate of candidates that they're in consideration. So thanks. All right. Any other sub reports? Okay, seeing none, we will move to Tom, Finance LPVC fourth quarter invoices.
So on your agenda tonight again is consideration for authorization of the fourth quarter transportation and vocational tuition for the collaborative. I would say through the superintendent and Bronwyn, the administration and the board of directors over at the collaborative deliberations that have occurred here through finance sub and at school committee in regards to moving forward with these and wanting some additional information in regards to cost avoidance with school being closed since the middle of March. So also, so they heard they heard that feedback, and they have issued credits that are available to districts to use to apply to against those fourth quarter invoices. So there's $300,000 that they've identified of cost avoidance related specifically to transportation. In Longmeadow, based on utilization, would receive just over a $20,000 credit to apply towards those invoices. The transportation, I think, was about $193,000, and the tuition for the vocational program for the fourth quarter is just under $51,000. So I think they heard the feedback, and instead of waiting until the end of the fiscal year to identify what those reduced expenses will be, they moved forward and identified those funds and issued them in terms of the credit to apply against those invoices. So I know there was a lot of concern about and wanting to know up front instead of on the back end of what those credits would look like in terms of reduced costs for the services.
Great. Are there any questions, concerns for Tom? If not, we have a motion.
I move on the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee that the school committee authorize payment of the fourth quarter invoices to the Lower Pioneer Valley Education Collaborative as presented.
Kevin, could we amend, because I don't think this is actually coming as a recommendation from Finance Sub, right, Jamie?
Yeah, we did not. We did not. We would need to amend that.
Okay. Yes. Please amend.
Okay, as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Is there any further discussion? Kevin.
So I mean, I feel like we've been talking about this for a long time now. I just want to make sure that I understand, like, we really don't have an alternative here, right? We've been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We essentially have to pay these bills. We've done the best we can with negotiating, and we've gotten to where we are. Am I right in that assessment?
I mean, that would be my position, Kevin. We're obviously going to need the collaborative to provide transportation services. Even if we wanted to consider alternatives, I don't think it's even possible to get a bid done and a contractor on board in time for next year. You know, based on the action that the collaborative board took in terms of the letter that they communicated, I feel as a member, we're kind of in a position to support the action that the board of directors voted on. So I don't know that we're really providing much of an alternative besides making the payments.
Yeah, Kevin, go ahead, Jamie, then I'll talk.
Go ahead, Armin. You can go first.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Kevin, I mean, I kind of agree with Tom, right? Like, I feel like from a standpoint, they provide us things that we can't get and probably can't get within the time period between now and the next school year. I think we've fought $20,000. We certainly, by their insulting letter to us, they realize that we're not happy. I mean, I felt like that letter was specific to us, since we're the only one that seems to get taxpayers and how that money's being handled. You know, from my perspective, you know, I sent some stuff to Marty and Sue, like on the innovation pathways grants that the state's giving out now to set up vocational local businesses in towns. And there's places around us that are starting to do that. West Springfield, Northampton, East Hampton, Westfield, starting, you know, quasi-public private partnerships to affect vocational training with grant funding from the state. So like I said earlier, I've got one more meeting after this. So I'm going to miss you all, but I will be here to support you through it all. You know, if there is any alternative, I'm all for exploring what those alternatives are, because I hate being painted into a corner. Jamie?
Could not have said it any better, Armand. I agree. I think we obviously have the alternative not, but I don't think that is an option right at this point. But I think what we do have to consider as a board over the course of time is developing alternatives and, really talking through them over time and truly plan this out over the next coming years. So I think that's just got to be a part of it. But I think from an actual payment, I agree with what you're saying, Kev. It's kind of at that point where, yes, we got what we got to pay this. But I think we truly got to think through whether we do business and whether we truly evaluate what alternatives are out there. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the original intent of the collaborative, the original intent of collaborative was to bring a bunch of smaller districts together in order to save money, right, while educating our children to the best possible outcomes that we could have. And I, quite frankly, with that letter that we got, I think the collaboratives lost touch with what the original intent of the.
Well, maybe they're gonna get a new director, and that could change.
I'm hoping so, Ryan. I'm hoping so. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Ryan?
Yes.
Gianna?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Sorry. Susie?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Armin, yes. Okay. All right. We got that. Let's go. Ongoing business, item number 10, impact of pandemic on FY20 and FY21. School committee has been asked to reduce our requested FY21 budget by $350,000. The administration is developing a recommendation which will be presented to the committee during our June 2nd meeting. Marty, Tom?
Marty, I don't know if you want me to start or.
Oh, sure. I was muted, Tom, but go for it.
Yeah, I mean, we've been looking at, and I think we'll be prepared through Finance Sub to bring forward some recommendations to the school committee to address the reduction in revenue that has been projected at this point for the FY21 budget. Looking at, we have a minimal impact on current positions and staffing in the buildings to continue supporting the programs and the services we have in place for our students. So I would expect that, I think as the agenda says, that we'll be prepared at the June 2nd meeting with those recommendations, and Finance Sub will have an opportunity to vet them to school committee.
Okay. Any questions for Tom? All right. Moving on, Dr. Shea, continuity learning remote. Have we already exhausted that, or do you want to add anything?
I think we probably hit on it earlier. So unless there are any other questions, I think
would that be applicable for continuity of operations and recovery and return to school as well?
I think across the board, I think we shared our best thinking and our best speculation on recovery and return. And but if anybody has any questions about sort of current status or current operations, happy to field those questions.
Tom, do we want to do the complement authorization now, or do we want to wait till we come out of executive session?
Is in regards to base pay, so it is consistent with the motions that have been voted on by school committee at the last few meetings.
Okay, that being said, is there a motion?
I move that the school committee authorize that for the pay period ending Friday, May 22nd, 2020. The district pay all current employees not on leave that portion of their base and the portion of any annual stipend to which they are entitled, consistent with the effective collective bargaining agreement or individual contract of employment, or in the presented at-will employees who have not been furloughed, the same amount as paid for week ending April 24th, 2020.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote. Gianna?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Bronwyn?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Yes.
Susan?
Yes.
I've messed that up like 10 times tonight. I want to say Susie, and then I see your name there, and I'm like Susian. Armin, yes, passes 7-0.
So now we're going to move on to new business. Dr. O'Shea is going to.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. I just want to go back to my screen. So there's a number of documents in your packet, and I just want to walk you through the materials that are there. And these materials will assist you in completing the evaluation per the timeline that the evaluation subcommittee had identified. So let me just show you, I'll take a second and show you the documents that are there, and then I will share my thoughts on my reflections on the extent to which I've achieved these goals and met the standards.
Hey, Marty, before I cut you off, like I'm doing right now,
sure.
Somebody, eval sub, are you gonna like explain the documents after Marty's done?
We can, well, the documents that Marty is sharing tonight are
No. The what you're expecting the rest of the committee to fill out.
Yes, those are included. I think Marty sent those to the entire committee today.
Right, and I guess I just might, are we doing long form or are we doing short form? That's what I didn't know. So
I'll take a shot.
We can talk about, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
I just want to make sure everybody gives you what you need, eval sub, to put it together. So,
okay.
All right, go ahead, Marty.
So you'll see here, this is a copy of the annual improvement plan. This was approved back in the late summer or early fall, and so that should be some of the goals and action steps should be you. The next item, and this might answer your question, Armin, is this is the summative evaluation form. And evaluation sub, I'm happy to sort of document if you want, or you can jump in.
You can go for it.
Okay, so you'll notice there are, this is the sort of the short form summative evaluation report. And this is what Mr. Kelly had indicated that the evaluation sub would like back from every member of the committee. And so you'll notice that there are 3 steps to this process for you. And this, as I've said many times before, is the process that all educators are required to follow. So step 1 is to assess my progress against the goals. And that's the document you just saw. My performance against the DESE standards. And there are 4 standard areas: instructional leadership and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. And then finally, and this is the key one, in step 3, is that every committee member would be asked to provide the evaluation subcommittee with a overall summative performance rating. And then there is ample space. You can add your own space to that to list some comments. So that's the form that evaluation sub has asked you to complete. There is a version of that I call the expanded form. And this is essentially the same document. And I think you can think of this as a working document for yourself. You'll notice it has all the same steps. Step 1, progress against goals. Step 2, performance against standards. But you'll notice down below that it has the rubrics with the sort of specific indicators within each rubric. And you can, if you choose, you can kind of, for your own purposes, assess my performance against each of those indicators. So each standard has a set of indicators inside of it. So that's the expanded form that you can complete just for your own purposes that would not need to be submitted. So what I've provided to you in your packet are a couple of documents. The first is, let me pull up this one. This is a document that I put together. This is essentially a listing of facts or evidence that I would cite in relation to my performance against the standards. So you'll see standard 1, instructional leadership, and I, in outline form, provided a sort of an outline of some of the initiatives, the work that we've been this year in relation to each standard. You'll see standard 2 is management and operations, standard 3, community engagement, and then standard 4, professional culture. So you're welcome to, at your leisure, go through that document, and you'll see a listing of the evidence against the standards. And then you'll also see, because you have to evaluate my performance against my goals, you'll see this document, and this is longer. You'll see that I have taken the goals and the action steps that were approved back in the fall or late summer, and I've added a brief reflection associated with each action step. And it is my own personal thoughts on the extent to which I've reached each of those goals. So hopefully that will assist you with thinking about the work that we've been involved with and the work that I've led in connection with my annual plan. So now let me stop there. I have a 2-slide PowerPoint that I want to show you that sort of, I think, tells a sort of 10,000-foot story, the work that we've done in relation to the goals and the standards. But let me stop there to see if there are any questions about process that the evaluation sub needs to answer.
Sub, you guys want these back by?
I think the date was by May 26th. Is that right, Brian?
Yep, correct. Okay. May 26th. That's what we said last meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Scan them and send them to Diane, correct?
Correct.
And then the process after that is eval sub will be, you will compile the results. It will be a weighted score amongst the scores. The comments will not be spoken during the evaluation, but they will be available for public consumption and some stored if they wish to see individual school committee members' comments.
At the meeting where we will vote, we will summarize.
Right, and at the meeting we'll vote, you will summarize for us. Okay.
Can I add something, Armin?
Bronwyn, go.
I think last year 1 or 2 people might have they turned in that expanded form, which is just like a kind of a working document for yourself. So just so everyone knows, they don't have to turn that in. We just need the 3-pager needs to get sent to Diane.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I would say that from a public records perspective, if you are to do the longer one and turn it into Diane, it does become a public, I would say fill out the form that is required as opposed to the longer working form for yourself.
Yeah. And we will take all of the comments as we did last year and compile them into a summary statement for each professional goal area and each profession and each standard area.
Awesome. Ryan?
Yeah, I just wanted to note and have Marty confirm for everybody that the facts that he mentioned and are listed are available for you if you wish to see any of those documents themselves, if you need it for what you're doing.
100%. Yep. If anyone needs any expanded evidence on anything that's in that outline or anything that's referenced in either of the reflections that I provided, I'm happy to do that. I'm also happy to meet with any of you for any amount of time that might be helpful to go over the documents that I provided. So
your 2-pagers?
Sure. So let's see, I just got to do another share screen here. So I want to start, excuse me. I want to start with where I began the year. This part of the slide deck doesn't count because in my 2 slides that I promised. At the beginning of the year, I asked the question, I posed the question that a number of things that we were undertaking at the beginning of the year were pointing us in some very important directions. And the contention that I made to any listen at the beginning of the year, or anybody who recalls, is that we were built towards a broader, renewed, and widely shared vision of student success. And this is the diagram I simply called the turkey diagram. But I pulled up this turkey diagram in just about every admin meeting and public setting that I possibly could. And those things that we were undertaking at the beginning of the year were pointing us towards student success or student learning, I think that in my mind was something that was trying to promote higher levels of engagement, more student self-direction, more opportunities for students to apply their learning in real settings, to be involved with work that they saw as relevant to their own personal identities as learners and as people, to be in really rigorous, problem-oriented academic pursuits. And so that has been kind of a guiding notion of mine this year. And so this is sort of maybe more the presentation that I wanted to share with you. And again, this is sort of a 10,000-foot summary of the detailed documents that I've provided you in your meeting packet. And as I thought through this year, and I thought to myself, what would be the storyline, the headline of the year in terms of the leadership I provided, I think it does go back to this notion that we spent a lot of energy and time this year working to build a foundation for that refreshed, renewed vision for student success. One that, again, is highly engaging for students and promotes in really relevant learning situations for them. And so it seemed to me that, and you'll notice I've been using, which, I suppose this is my evaluation, but it's an odd thing for a superintendent to talk about this work can happen without the involvement of teachers and administrators at the building level and the central office level. So the work that I'm presenting in relation to my evaluation, it's really a reflection of the hard work that's gone on across the district. So to go back to this foundation idea, and this is, you can see I'm not a graphic designer, right? But I'm trying to promote the idea that we spent a considerable portion of this year building a foundation that I think will allow us to achieve that broader, renewed vision for student success. And I've showed you down below here on this slide some of the building blocks. And this is a sampling of some of the work that we've been involved with that I think will point us towards that refreshed, renewed vision for student success. And we can talk about any one of these building blocks down below. All of them are referenced in the evaluation materials that I provided you with. But I think to our engagement with tiered systems of support, where we developed a revised curriculum accommodation plan, where we have tightened up and established new tier 2 supports. Our admin team was super, super excited about a 2-day training that we took part in back in January around tiered systems of support. I think that training will be really foundational for us, continue to be foundational for us, and really will point us in some important directions in the years ahead. We spent a lot of time this year really being purposeful about trying to embed social emotional learning. We were purposeful in expanding our commitment to standards-based teaching and learning. We have begun the process of rolling that up to the middle schools and also enhanced what was currently happening at the elementary level. And then to the bottom left, I hope you've sensed that, knowing some of the budgetary constraints and other things, that we're really eager to provide new learning opportunities for students, things that engage them in very relevant, rigorous work. And I think of career education, I think of STEAM, I think of our promotion of deeper learning, to be in that kaleidoscope pilot project at the state level. The vision of the graduate. We spent a lot of time this year kind of orienting teachers, K-12, to that VOG. And we wanted all of our budgetary decisions. We wanted all of our course curriculum adoption decisions to be pointed towards that VOG. We wanted all of our efforts to embed SEL to be pointed towards that VOG. And then finally, something that I'm really excited about for next year is to establish our commitment to equity and inclusivity in Longmeadow Public Schools. And we've talked a little bit about the partnership that we have entered into with the Center for Leadership and Educational Equity. Sue and I, Tom and Jean, have been meeting with them regularly, even during the closure period. And we're really excited to roll up our sleeves next year. We had to rearrange some of the schedules, but excuse me, we're really excited for that opportunity. And the reason I put that building block in here is because I think that gets to the idea of identity-informed instruction and making sure we're being responsive to the individual identities of all kids based on their socioeconomic status, based on their race, based on their unique backgrounds as learners. So this sort of picture, the foundation that we built for the house above is something that I hope you as kind of a coherent explanation of the work that we've been involved with, and a sort of 10,000-foot view of the reflections that I provided in the event. So happy to answer any questions you might have or explain anything further. But that's
Brian.
More than a question, it's a comment. So first, so everybody knows, Marty asked how we wanted a presentation, and as a superintendent, I know he's done it a number of different ways, and Susie's been in the same boat, seen it a number of different ways. And we asked for the shorter version, and just as a way of explanation, these tend to be documents and topics and things that we've discussed many times throughout the year, in 28 slides on topics that we've already discussed. Doesn't seem like the best use of everybody's time. So first, thank you, Marty, for recognizing what we asked for. But the big thing that I want to talk about here on this slide that I'm most excited about that we saw this year, in my opinion, was the expanded learning opportunity. I have a junior who's currently in an internship that has fired him up beyond what regular classroom learning has done. And I think the STEAM thing that we saw tonight is another really good example of something that's really, really gets kids interested in what they could possibly learn. So I'm a big fan of the stuff and the high school people have been talking about for career education and internships and other things like that for our students to get learning opportunities outside of school, which clearly are going to be more and more important since at the moment they can't even get in school. So I appreciate that stuff a lot. Thank you.
Herman, I know I don't want to have to put you on the spot, but I know that you're not part of the official evaluation, but you've been a part of the team. So I'd love your thoughts on some of that foundation and what it means to you as a student.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been, especially with the internship program that Ryan talked about. I think there's definitely been a lot of improvement. And a lot of that comes from the work of Dr. O'Shea and the foundation that he's kind of put in place here. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what's been said.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, but definitely,
yeah, no worries.
Definitely like the input of the students here, because But has been, invaluable along the way. So thanks. Any other questions or concerns? Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of comical that we haven't talked about the thing that's occupied the most of your time for the past 2 months. You didn't have a learning goal or vocational goal that was respond to a pandemic. I get why that's not there, but it seems a little weird if we're evaluating you and we ignore that. So I'd like some input from the eval subcommittee on. It would almost feel unethical to me to provide an evaluation and not comment on how Marty has handled the past 2 months of chaos.
Yeah, and I can speak to that, Martin.
Susie, can I just sorry, you
sure.
Get an answer from the eval sub. No, Kevin, I totally agree with you on that. Like, and and for Susie, the only reason why I wanted to jump in is I wanted to ask you your perspective as well. Is on some of the things we're looking at, are we separating out the last 2 months from, like, on communication? There's communication in the last 2 months versus communication over the entire time. So that's the question I was going to ask. So.
Well, I think, that's one reason that, there's that comment section, obviously, that we expect you to take this position because you're right. It will have been 3 months of, his entire year as far as the work that he's, and the goals that continue despite COVID-19. So I think, the fact that we were presented with the STEAM program, that didn't stop because of COVID-19. We're looking at, yes, implementing it under uncertain circumstances, under difficult circumstances, and in some cases, as we deliberated on, maybe some uneven circumstances. So I think, that brings, but those are all, those are all find ourselves in, and the fact that we can still move forward with goals and that Dr. O'Shea is still, providing the support to his team to move that forward. I think, that again, that's something that you have consideration with all of this. And I'm not doing the evaluating for you, but certainly Kevin and Armin, that has to come into play because nobody expects, well, they didn't expect. Any sitting superintendent right now never expected to go through this. Now that we see what, that some of the reflections, and I've read through them a little bit, not in depth yet, but I expect that some of them will be, in particular, COVID related. His reflections on how those goals have been met or not met, or stymied because of COVID. And yes, we expect that. So that you, as individual school committee members, will speak to those pieces as well.
Marty, you want to say something?
Yeah, where you will have that opportunity evaluation process. Is in the performance against the standards. So the goals are very specific to me and Longmeadow Public Schools. The standards are more generic, relating to effective administrative leadership. So you'll be able to look at the management standards and the family and community engagement standards, for example, and you'll have an opportunity to evaluate my effectiveness against those standards during the closure period.
Mm-hmm. The other piece about this process, and we encourage you as school committee members from an evaluation subcommittee to think these things through. But you'll recall last year when we synthesized your responses and then presented the summary. The summary also included recommendations for the superintendent's continued growth. So we encourage you to consider, your own perspectives on that as well, because we are here to evaluate the superintendent. We're also here to support him going into his next year. So recommendations for continued growth in whether it be in the goal areas or the standards for performance are certainly welcomed and valued. We know that many of the the goals and even some of the shifts in the goals moving into this year were informed by the school committee's evaluation last year.
Any other questions or comments on this? Marty, thanks Susie, thanks Ryan, Bronwyn. Wait, is that it? Did I get that email some? Okay, cool. All right. All right, moving on to class sessions. Dr. O'Shea?
Sure. So you'll recall that in your budget, the approved budget, that we had made an allocation to add an additional section at in the coming school year. But we had also noted at the time that we had third grade at the watch list, and so we think that the third grade enrollment at Center is trending in such a way that we would recommend to you the addition of another section. Tom could provide some explanation in terms of the budget and how that would be achieved, but I will share with you our projected class size at our elementary schools, just so you have the information in front of you. So you'll see this is Blueberry with 4 sections, and we'd be looking at a really favorable class size of 18 students per classroom in that third grade at Blueberry. Center School, if we were to remain at 3 sections, we would be at 22 or 23 students per section. Center School enrollment has been trending up. We can reasonably expect that there'll be some additional registrations. And so our recommendation to you tonight is to allocate another section at third grade at Center School. It would bring class size at third grade in line with the class size pattern that we see at Blueberry and then at Wolf Swamp as well. So that is for your consideration tonight.
Mr. Maz, anything to add?
Yeah, I would recommend that if the school committee is considering options for funding, we would probably recommend using money from school choice for FY21 to support this. As we're developing our plans to make the reductions by adding this to the general fund, it would require us to move forward with a deeper cuts in terms of being able to support the additional funds that would be needed for another section at Center in third grade. So I guess if somebody recommend you scratch that it's on the recommendation of Finance Sub has not met to review this, and I would add the language that it be funded through the school choice fund.
Yeah. Is there a motion? Or Bronwyn, you want to say something first?
Oh, I was going to say, speaking of school choice, I don't know if it was at Finance Sub or if it was in one of these meetings. We thought we would wait for the final numbers to come in to see if there was any more spots we could open up. I didn't know if that was still a discussion or not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've gone back to revisit it yet. I know we included 5 slots in third grade, so having this additional section will help towards those numbers. I would say that also when I did plan the budget, I don't think I anticipated us having an increase in number of graduating students in terms of total school choice numbers. So with the 10 earlier this year, we're going to see an increase in revenue already, which will help support offsetting the cost of this position. So I don't know that I would recommend increasing the number of slots at this point. I think I'm comfortable with, from a financial position, what action was taken earlier to approve the 10 slots. But I could go back and take a look at it if you want.
I thought provides us some financial stuff too. But when we talked about it a while ago, I know we had mentioned that quite high with our numbers in school choice, and that some people were hoping that we would go up a little bit. And then I thought I remember us having discussion at finance. Jamie or Ryan, you can let me know about maybe coming back and looking at it once we had some more final numbers. I mean, it looks like we might have some room. I just think it's a win-win with the opportunity for students to come to Longmeadow if they so choose, and also for students from Longmeadow to experience friendships with students from other districts.
Yeah, Bronwyn, I would agree with you. I think what we originally did is from what I remember, what I recall, we originally agreed on the 10, but I think given all the circumstances, because that was obviously a pre-COVID, whether we shouldn't look at it again, I kind of agree with your thought process. Considering we're going to have some budget constraints, this might not be a bad thing to at least evaluate. Whether we take action or not, that can be something for the group to decide. But
I mean, just from my perspective, I stated it before, I'll state it again. You know, I was on a school committee back when the recession hit, and as I came on, the school committees before us were taking on vast more numbers of school choice to fill budget needs, and I think that is the worst thing a school district can do, just take on choice and looking to the budget to do that. As a former school choice parent in Longmeadow, the reason why we moved here was for the entire experience, because while I do appreciate what choice did for my daughter to give her access to the schools, it did not give access to aspects of the community that come from living in the community. And that drove a lot of the reason why we moved here. Vehemently be against adding school choice just to fill a budget gap, ever.
I wasn't indicating we should do it for the budget gap. We had a discussion in sub a while ago that I thought it was a goal that we would try to increase in general. I don't think 10 is a huge increase, especially seeing I think some of our K numbers are going to be a little bit small. Our graduating class is a lot bigger than our incoming 9th grade class. Marty, do you remember us talking about that?
I do, that there was some thought about, you know, potentially revisiting, and you know, we're happy to follow the committee's lead if, you know, we do have to bring back some recommendations to you for the FY21 budget. So
well,
now that I think about it,
hold on. Just from an agenda standpoint, the motion in place is in regards to approving the 3rd grade teacher at center school. The question of should we add more school choice or not, I think is the separate issue that we should add as a separate agenda item for a future meeting with the appropriate data behind that. The need for the 3rd grade position would still be there. And I think this is just me, if you guys disagree, I'm good with that too. But from a funding perspective, what Tom is suggesting is an account as opposed to tying the two together as it's a school choice account. That's where that money goes to that account, as opposed to that bringing on more school choice people would be a funding mechanism for this 3rd grade position.
I wasn't trying to tie them together. It sparked my memory when Tom mentioned the school choice budget. But it is a discussion that we talked about possibly revisiting. I was just mentioning that.
Okay.
But maybe not the proper time, sorry.
No, we can definitely add that to an agenda in the next couple coming meetings. And Tom and Marty, from a I guess, what would what would the committee want from Tom and Marty to help make a decision about whether they want to add more choice? Jamie?
Yep, I think what we can do is, because I know the finance side to be a month and a half, 2 months, I don't even know how long ago it was, but there were trend numbers, and I agree, Armin, I'm not trying to tie this, but we are significantly below trend, so we should at least know that, you know, the 10 obviously may get us to whatever point it is, and we'll let the numbers bear that out, as to whether we're back to trend or ahead of the last 5-year trend. But I think just looking at it and not tying these two necessarily together, but, you know, realizing that, you know, either not completely connected in a way they are, and just seeing where we currently are projecting next year, where we've seen, you know, the trend from now all the way back to 2004, encompass that period where things were very different, as Armand had said, and reiterate what was different at times so everybody can understand the numbers. And then really go through it again as to which grades we think we have the biggest opportunity for if we wanted to add it as a committee, you know, more students.
Okay. Is there anything else we could add to that agenda item people are looking for? And I definitely, Jamie, and the trends and historical trends in regards to that. And anything else? Diane?
I just want to let you know we do have to report to the state by June 1st, and your next meeting is June 2nd.
We have to report to them what?
What your school choice vote was, and specifically the numbers and the grades. That report is due to them June 1st.
You can't add after June 1st, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Bronwyn?
Just a quick question. I'm not sure about this. Would this qualify as an unforeseen discussion on the agenda or no?
Per the rules, the school committee can talk about adding agenda items and a vote at any time. A school committee member can always ask for something to be placed on an agenda or a future agenda, and you know, I think we've seen that vote happen before in the past on meetings and not be successful. So yes, so that's, I guess, the discussion about whether we want to put it on a future agenda item is totally appropriate. Talking about it or taking any kind of vote on it would not be. Tiana?
Is there a way to have another, you know, we had a couple of emergency meetings when this all, is there a way to have another meeting before the June 1st deadline?
I am open to doing whatever the committee does to want to make me have more meetings. Yes, no, just kidding.
So wait, we can't make a motion for it to be added tonight?
No. We can make an emotion for it to be posted meeting, but we can't do it for tonight. Yes, Marty. Marty, you're on mute.
I think even if it were allowable, I'm not sure we'd be in a position tonight to make a recommendation on numbers and grades. And I'm wondering if, Diane, maybe you and I can look at this tomorrow. It might be that if a district is from choice, it needs to be signaled by June 1st. It's possible, and I would want clarification. It's possible that the slots can be added after June, but Diane, you got as much experience as I do with this, so maybe we can take a look at that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, Diane, are you saying like the lottery and everything would have to be done by June 1st?
No, but your vote, I was actually going to do it this week and report to the state what the vote was. And I got hung up on a question that I needed clarification on. So I didn't. They asked specifically if you've limited the number, what this form was, is asked specifically what the vote was, when it occurred, and then how many seats were open. But to make a change, I don't know whether we can make a change, and we'd have to look into that tomorrow.
Yeah, we can take, yeah.
So Bronwyn, I would entertain a motion from you to put this on an emergency agenda pending the information that Diane and Marty find out.
And if it was 48 hours, Armand, you wouldn't need an emergency.
Or, okay, I would on a agenda as soon as Marty and Diane are able to verify that. We have to do it by June 1st.
All right, so we make a motion for them to.
Although, Diane, because I'm agreeing to it, we don't need a vote on it, right? It would just be me putting together an agenda. Okay, cool. So with the consent of the committee, Diane and Marty will look into the DESE effect of school choice and what the deadlines are in the next day. I will get back to setting up a meeting with the appropriate guidelines and timelines to give people a chance to get information to us and to vote. If it's the June 1st deadline, it's a June 1st deadline. If it's after that, I'll let everybody know too. Is that okay?
Yes.
No worries. So going back to here, we have a motion.
I have a question before the motion.
Oh, Susie, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm later to the point, but I just want to make sure, and only for clarification purposes, because I know there was some, confusion around the Blueberry Hill section versus the, the potential for a center section. But Dr. O'Shea, it's your plan to maintain the line item teacher that's been allocated to Blueberry Hill that you presented in the FY 2021 budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we're going from 3 sections in that second grade 3 sections in 1920 to third grade 4 sections in 2021.
Correct.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that we're maintaining that and adding the center school. Thank you.
Okay, somebody want me to make the motion?
Oh, I'm on the subcommittee, so someone else should read it.
I can do it if you want, Armin.
Sure.
I move that the school committee approve 1.0 grade 3 teacher at center school for the 2020-2021 school year from the school choice account.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. Ryan?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Armin, yes. Is that everybody?
No. I mean, I'm not voting. I'm saying you missed me.
Gianna, yes, I did. I knew I had my fingers and I was missing one. Gianna?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. All right.
Marty, can you just, Armin, quick question. Marty, can you send us that updated class size thing you just showed?
Yeah, I'll send it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marty. Okay, we have an executive session. Someone want to make the motion?
I will.
I'll make it. Oh, got it.
You want it? Or,
No, you.
I move that the school committee meet in executive session pursuant to MGL C30A 21A Purpose 2 to conduct session in preparation with collective bargaining units A, B, D, E, F, and bargaining with the assistant superintendents. And Purpose 7, consider use of executive session minutes of previous meetings to reconvene into open session.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any conversation? Okay. The school committee has moved that we meet in executive session, GL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Purpose to conduct a strategy session in preparation with collective bargaining units A, B, D, E, F, and bargaining with the assistant superintendents, and Purpose 7, consideration of release of executive session minutes of previous meetings to reconvene into open session. This motion requires a roll call vote. Anna?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Bronwyn? Kevin?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Susie?
Yes.
Armin, we are in executive session. We will reconvene into open session. Thanks, Armin. Thanks, Nicole.
Welcome back to the May 19th, 2020 school committee meeting. We are reconvening from into open session from executive session. There is under item 14, MOU units B, C, D, E, F, H. Is there a motion?
I move that the school committee approve the memorandum for units B, D, E, F regarding evaluations for the 2019-2020 school year and authorize the school committee chair to sign them.
That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion and second. Is there any conversation? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a roll call. Gianna.
Yes.
Jamie.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Susie. Ryan.
Yes.
Armin, yes. Under item 15, assistant superintendent contracts on the agenda, the school committee has met and is going to send the superintendent back, hold further discussions with the superintendents and district council. So we'll take care of that. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that the school committee adjourn the May 19th, 2020 school committee meeting.
Is a motion second?
Second.
Roll call. Any conversation? Seeing none, call for a vote. Gianna.
Yes.
Bronwyn.
Yes.
Jamie.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Susie.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Armin, yes. Join us for our next regularly scheduled meeting on June 2nd. Oh, Marty, did you have something, or are you just waving goodbye because it's 10:30? And
Hardly
All right.
see Kevin.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining, and nice work tonight, team.
Good night.
Thank you.
Hi, kids.